is spirit. And we'll talk about that more next week. But let's try and figure if we can distinguish which is which, because one is physical, it's within our body, it's experiences in our body, it's emotions within our body. The other is the intuition stuff we're talking about. That's mind. And the word mind is used to refer to both physical and spiritual. So we have to really be careful when we're talking to think about, are we talking about the physicalness of this? Or are we talking about the spiritualness of this? Does that make sense, Amy?
Mm, yeah. Mm,
Yeah. And we all do it because that word is not used, what can I say, carefully in our language. Even in the books that you read, it's not always used carefully. So anytime you see the word mind, you have to stop and take a look at it. And they're talking about the physical nervous system that we have and the analytical brain that we have and that talking little thing that's always going on in the head, or are we talking about the mind from spirit, the intuition, the flow from the other, from that which is real, which is the cosmos, which is God or divinity, what you want to call it. Okay. So I'm sorry, it's been a thing on my mind for the past month.
no pun intended.
Yeah,
I think you make a really important distinction. Yes, yes, yes. So the more that we can work with this and open our mind, our spiritual mind, this knowing, this intuition can come in and guide us in really important ways and allow us to be present to, as Granny J just said, what's real, reality. Really, yeah, be present to reality as it is, not with our blinders on and all of our bias. So we're going to shift a bit and talk a little bit about identity. So Granny J, do you want to?
yes, as soon as I get my iPad up here again, because it keeps shutting down. Okay, I've got it up. Yes. So identity, we're still in the sixth chakra, remember? So we're talking about identity here. It tells us how to function with each of our groups. Okay, we know when we need to close up and when we need to open up, and you've been dealing with a lot of that, Leah, just in the past days. So it's a essential and vital part of what we need to be aware of and to work with in each chakra as as we as we matured from age 0 to 20. We went through and developed our first initial identities in each of the chakras, and tonight we're going to talk about each of the chakras and sort of what they house there, what kind of information they house. Identity can be viewed as um, a metamorphic set of clothing. So it's a set of clothing that you sort of put on yourself that gives you information as to how to behave and respond and talk about and react in different situations and in different groups. And we need these different outfits for each of these situations. Uh, in order to stay a member of it, we have to put on the clothing of that group. Uh, okay. Or if we don't change and we get stuck there, because that's when the message that says there's some work we need to do. So if we get stuck in one of these sets of clothes, that says we need to go back and do some work there. The characteristics are both real and false because they are not the whole picture, not the whole. We can facilitate our growing awareness by recalling our identities at each of the chakra levels. So what we're going to do tonight is go through each of the chakras and the identities we have in them. And as we do that, see if you can pick up your identity, your set of clothing that you wear in those kinds of instances. So, Amy?
Yeah. So, we're going to just begin with the first chakra. We're going to work our way up. So, the first chakra is where we work with physical identity. Pretty basic. The job of that first chakra is to achieve self-preservation through physical awareness. It's just the basic needs, what it means to be alive. Involves knowing the physicality throughout within the physical world. It's about what tasks we can do physically, what we need to do, when we need to eat, rest, exercise, move our body. Basically, this is about staying alive physically. So the body is we know it's the physical expression of the soul. That's where maybe that sentence is worth saying again. The
Yeah.
body is a physical expression of the soul. Man, we are in a culture that wants us to think we are only just the physical and we're only just matter. Without awareness of this chakra, this first chakra, one is disassociated from both the body and the world.
Yeah.
We're kind of living with this sense that we are only just the physical. Yeah.
And all we have to do is figure out how to survive, food, housing, safety. And a lot of that's present in our society right now, which is pretty well stuck in the first chakra. And chakra 2, beneath the surface of the body, turns one's emotions. The emotions are the clothing of our feelings. When we experience a strong emotion, we literally feel it. And those feelings give us a sense of aliveness. Our language, as opposed to other languages, states that we are the emotion itself. Our language, the American language, when we use that, it says, if we state an emotion, we think we are that. Now that's supposed, I'm going to give you an example. Okay. I am angry. I am sad. I am fearful. We've all said those things. Whereas if we're talking in another language, we would be saying, I have fear. I have anger. I have sadness. But we're not saying we are the emotion itself. There's a big difference there. A really big difference. This chakra is the identity that says, I feel, therefore I am. Hence, whatever I feel is what I am. So if you feel sad, or say then you are sad, and you can get stuck there. Hence, whatever I feel is what I am. And the second chakra is our emotional identity. And its job is self-gratification. Self-gratification. The first chakra links in here because we have to feel our bodies to interpret their messages. And this is how we connect and flow in our physical world. So the first and second chakra are very closely connected in that way.
So in the third chakra, the solar plexus, we identify with our will, if you remember. Our will, our behavior, our action. Here we realize that we are a separate identity. Remember, this is like the place of the soul, the place of who we are essentially. And then we have the power to choose both our actions and then, of course, their consequences. This chakra is oriented towards self-definition. This is where the ego lives. This is the ego identity. It's saying, I am what I do. So this identity is most often in charge. And to counteract this and to really bring the ego into balance, we need only to remember that it's a middle manager. Remember, this is like we're moving from the solar up to the heart eventually. So the solar is the middle manager between the lower chakras and the ego, and then the heart and the upper chakras. These are the soul's physical world identities. These three: the body, the emotion, and then behavior, action. And so we're just going to spend a little bit of time here. And I think, Granny J, let's stay in the whole group here
Yeah.
to just share some reflections about how we've experienced these identities. And let me say a word here about why this matters to us as we're exploring identities tonight. Because when we think about the mind, what Toli said about the disrupting the mind patterns, or as Granny J is warning us to be careful about how we understand that, it's all these identities that can get in the way and block this deeper knowing or deeper truth. And so we're wanting to just look at how these identities play out and what they are so that we can be in relationship with them and right relationship and not let them totally dictate who we think we are, how we understand ourselves. Yeah. So again, what is our experience with these three, the body, the emotion, and this like behavior or action, the what we do? How do we understand ourselves? What are our relationship with those forms of our own identities related to that? Anything come up? I'll say, like, for me, one thing that's really coming up as we work through this is like in the work that I'm doing with a lot of my clients right now. I mean, and just in general, I can see how this is, as Granny J is saying, this is where we live. It's like all the messages, all the conditioning we get, and our systems also reflect this back to us because they're designed to have us only focus on that. It's really hard to tap into anything deeper than just the physical need, the emotion, and then how we understand ourselves through what we do in our behavior. So that's really how people are seeing themselves. And I see my job is to help them start to include that, but also come to know some deeper truths about who they are, more than just those three. Like, yeah, I hear you that you feel. I had a client the other day, I'm suffering, my spirit is broken. He kept saying he was, and for good reason, deeply hurt man in a lot of pain in all ways. And I just found myself saying, just stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it, and it was kind of disrupting that story, that narrative he was telling himself. And when I did that, it like slapped him almost. He's like, oh. And I just said, are you ready to heal? Are you ready to do? But it's like those stories are just so deeply ingrained and they keep us stuck there. They can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mary, what's the favorite thing you tell people when you hear them talking about that? What do you usually say?
The story's not working for you. It's time to change the story. So if you repeat the same thing over and over again and you get the same results and it's not the results that are healthy results, then it's time to look at it and change your story.
What I'm tending to say when I hear things like that now is this is a listening universe. God wants you to have what you ask for. Be careful what you're asking for because that's what you're going to get. So if you say you know, I'm desolate, I just have no friend, da 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 da. Guess what? The universe will help you do that. So it's a listening universe. I mean, I have that I should have brought my list up. I have a list of statements on a sheet of paper on my bathroom mirror because I visit that frequently during the day, and you're washing your hands, you can take a look at it. And listening universe is number 2 on my list.
Mm.
That's identity. That's what we're talking about is identity here.
I think for me, my identity was couched so much in my family. My family wasn't, they didn't express themselves that much emotionally at a deeper level. It was all kind of a superficial. So um, when I tried to figure out how I was feeling all these things inside, how could I express them? I had to really look at that and see through listening how I could voice who I was. And finding out who I was took a while because everyone was saying something different.
Mhm.
And it didn't match what I felt inside.
That's what came up for me was thinking about times in my youth and like being able to see now, oh, I wasn't, in touch with my body and no one was providing or modeling the skills for what that looked like. So it was like this outside validation for things that I was never even asking myself, like, did I want that? Does this feel good for me? Like, what do I want? And so yeah, in that way I can really see how the first and the second are together or how things could get flipped. Like everyone's saying you should feel this way or is reacting in a certain way. And so then you can't quite recognize when it's not congruent. Um, and yeah, I also just really see in the world how the like we are what we do is just so pervasive, or we only, people will only love us because of how we're achieving or whatever the case may be. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had a bit of identity crisis. You go through your life and you make an identity with the work that you do. Like, I was a teacher, I was a rehabber, I was a professor, I was um a sister, that kind of thing. And then when I retired, all those jobs went away. And I can remember going, ooh, now who am I? You know? And I think as I look back on it that I think you constantly do that because you get into these relationships, volunteerism, what have you, and all of a sudden you take on this new identity. So you have to keep thinking, is that the real me or is this the real me? And so I think it's an ongoing, what, identification process.
It
Did
is.
did you find when you were traveling, Marcia, that that gets shaken up? Because I find for me when I travel or I willingly put myself in a situation where I don't know how I will behave, it like fascinates me because I'm just like, who am I gonna become? I have no idea. Like, do I like paintball? I don't know. I'm either about to be so fierce and like win in paintball or I'm about to be traumatized. Let's go see what happens. Like, I just
Or
appreciate being and where I'm like, I actually cannot predict how this might go for me.
or going on a vacation where you are with three people who you like, but you've never really been in that certainly an intimate situation for 3 weeks. And it's like, oh, how am I going to react to this?
One of
So,
my major identity times for identity changes for me, and excuse me if I've mentioned this in this class, but it came in probably my late 30s. And I was seeing a therapist, and the therapist gave me the exercise that said, I want you to go find 5 friends, or maybe just 5 people that know you. 5 people that are going to be honest with you, not tell you what you want to, what you want to hear. Just 5 friends that will really be truthful, and ask them who they see you are. Boy, did that change because there wasn't a match. How people were seeing me was totally different than how I was seeing myself.
Mm.
I thought, boy, you got to get to work here. I
Mm.
don't live that dual life anymore.
Mm.
Oh,
Perfect.
oh,
Go ahead, Tammy. Go ahead.
I had an experience like that. You just triggered something in me. We lived overseas for 15 years for me, but there was a 12-year stretch where it was all totally for 12 years. And when we came back, I had young children who had never lived in America, and people, they treated me like I was American. And even there was some things said, but I didn't feel it. And my children certainly didn't feel it. And it was such a shakeup. Like, who am I? And I found myself, like you said, I was behaving the way I thought they would like me to, or to fit in. Like, okay, we're in America. An American now. And it was really jarring on my sense. And my children, they weren't American. And I mean, by birth, they were, birth certificate anyway. They weren't born here, but yeah, that's very jarring to your head to not have it match with what people say or you should be or you are.
Mm.
Yeah, so you can really see that identity plays a role because society expects you to have an identity, and they give you an identity if you don't create one for yourself or put one out there. So it's sort of it's a tool, but at the same time, it could be like a trap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Granny J, this I think a perfect segue into the fourth chakra and the social identity.
Okay, so let's just move over to the fourth chakra.
Mhm.
Here we create a social identity or a persona. We are the personality that we create to interact with others. So Tammy, you created one with where you were living. You came back here. You had to create a new one, and they helped you do it because they sort of said, you're like this. And so guess what? You're like this.
You
Yeah.
let this.
It is our ego allowing us to rise above the surface and separating us from the shadow. So our ego, when we get into the fourth chakra is there, and it's our ego that's allowing us to rise above the surface that separates us from our shadow. Archetypes will be expressed. So what we then move to is toward archetypes, or we pick up an archetype. We may be the seductive lover, or the pleaser, or the enticer, or the compulsive helper, and there are a lot of others of these. Did any of you pick up an archetype? Can you remember when you maybe were transferred to a different job, or you took on a different job, or maybe you got married and got mixed in with a group that you normally weren't interacting with? Or do any of you remember an archetype? Mary would tell you that my archetype is a helper, right? If someone has a need and I pick it up, my archetype's going to turn right on. And I
I
know
would
it.
say rescuer.
Rescuer, even Amy's shaking her head.
No, I was just like resonating. Yep, I know. I know that one well. I think mother, healer. Yeah, it's interesting. I think even just feeling, I don't know if you all can, but like going from this personal separate identity into this archetype, can you feel like it's like you can feel this like ascension into this like moving into these more universal patterns. I'm also feeling that as we move into this fourth chakra.
Yeah, Peg, you must have turned on some archetypes in your job that you created yourself
Yeah, many, and in fact, that's what I'm thinking about, because as an executive director of an organization where you're planning events and trying to bring in money, it's almost as if you have to create a persona for each individual so that you can almost meet them where they are to help them understand how they can be significant. But if you can't if you can't connect with them,
No.
there's no connection. You can't help them to understand. But through all that time when I was doing events and doing a lot of speaking and trying to rally people around the immigrant cause, everyone said, "Oh, Peg's never going to be able to retire. She's so dedicated to her job. This is who she is." And I retired very easily, because in fact,
Because you knew you weren't that.
that was not who I was. That was who I was for that job, but it wasn't who I was.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So archetypes are going to be expressed, and they serve a good purpose in our families. We may use archetypes such as the child or the hero.
Mm.
Uh, Initially, we take on the role that's based upon how others treat us. We don't take on the ones that we perceive might work there, but people begin treating you a certain way. And once they do that and they assign an archetype to you, it is very hard to change that image that they have. So that's always an interesting thing. Whether we are a pleaser or admirer or an outcast or rejected, as we mature, this shifts to how we perceive our role. So at some point, we decide we're going to be who we are or who we think will work best there. Okay. Service to others, or maybe how we have learned to embrace the work beyond the egocentric self, because our ego is always in here trying to be the major actor of the show. So the ego will get involved in whatever archetype it is that you're working with. It is this that forms the basis of our own personal self-acceptance, how we perceive ourselves, how the ego is interacting here.
I hear that self-acceptance so beautifully in the way that Peg just described.
Yeah,
She knew she wasn't her job. That is like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's putting it so. So our social identities has the ego as its base, yet it continually expands beyond the realm of our self-centered needs to embrace, in some way, the awareness of others. So as you're within a group, you become more aware of their needs, and you begin to shift in some ways to serve the needs of the group. Or maybe you turn the other way and you get the group to serve your ego needs. So it could probably go either way. As one transcends the ego identity, we can we can we sort of develop a social identity, the energy around our social image. How I present myself sort of depends greatly on the strength of my ego. So one of the things I have noticing, for example, we're up here in Minocqua, so when I'm going to church on Sunday, it's not the same as it was in the past, because my eyes do not always allow me to identify the face, because my central vision isn't as good. And so when I focus on the face, I really can't interpret it. I'm beginning to find that my visual image is pretty well connected to my brain, and the two are together. So if I can't get the image in there fully to communicate with the brain, then the brain it doesn't really know so well who that person is. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Have I described that? So I'm finding that an interesting thing. And so I'm having to sort of deciding how I'm going to go about interacting with people because it's not going to be the way it is in the past, because I'm going to go through that struggle. Who in the hell am I talking to? And so I'm going to have to figure out a way to get them to talk about themselves in some ways to where I can begin to identify who they are. So it's a little complex problem that I'm having, but it fits right in with what we're saying here. So Amy, why don't you take up here?
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I'm starting to imagine that would be, yeah, what if you just showed up just as you are and didn't like that feels like a really brave thing to do, not to, in other words, what if we could just be who we are all the time, regardless of whoever it was whoever it was that we were interacting with.
Yeah, but the person I'm interacting with has a relationship with me as I was last summer.
I know, but it's like, woo, they get to
Not
experience
the
a different
same.
version of Granny J.
I know it's
Kind of-
an interesting thing. So it'll work out.
It kind of reminds me of one of my discernment questions when I was going through discernment. Is one of the questions the priest asked. He said, "Are you prepared for people that might see you and act toward you differently now that you have a collar on?"
Yeah,
And it's the same concept of how
totally.
Yeah.
perceive you or how you perceive yourself. It
Yes.
changes, and your identity changes. I
Yeah.
have a ton of different identities and different jobs and professions and so forth, and the identity does flow in different spaces.
Mhm.
Mine did.
Yeah, totally.
Think about the people that you meet on the street. You meet a couple who are dressed in suits and fine dresses and nice jewelry and blah, and you treat them this way. And then all of a sudden, here comes, this dirty beggar. And what do? Do you treat them the same?
Yeah.
We actually had a acting assignment when I was in acting school over spring break. You had to drastically change something about your appearance, and you had to keep up. Like, it was called the physical change, and you had to keep it up for the entire quarter. It was like 10 weeks class or something.
Oh,
And
Wow.
it was all like to teach you about how our behavior like ties into habits, and like to change up how you're perceived, and learning about behavior. But people, like, one guy wore the like orange saffron Tibetan monk robes and like did practices. One girl wore a pregnant belly for the whole time. I like bleached blonde my hair, cut it really short for the first time, and didn't let anyone see me without makeup on for the whole time. And it really did, like, there were people who all of a sudden, based on however they were presenting, then they couldn't get a cab ever. The cabs would just never stop for them. And there were just all these things. That was a really impactful lesson. But I remember thinking that everything in the whole world was going to change once I had gone through my physical change. Like, I put on the makeup, and I was in New York City at the time, and I was like, all right, everything's going to be different now. And then I like go on this walk, and I'm like, yeah, people just see what they see, and they take you for what you are. Like, nothing changed, and it made me laugh.
I think
that
that happens part of life too. You go, I mean, if anyone's experienced the midlife change, that's kind of similar to what you're talking about it. And one time I went to the hairdresser and I said, "Get rid of it. Just make me look, do something totally different." Boy, did that change. And I did.
I think I learned early on that people are not who they appear. especially working with immigrants who have come from all kinds of different countries and the reasons why. You know, I would work with people who could barely speak a word of English and were working as, you know, machine operators, but in their own country, you know, were well-respected pilots. There was one gentleman who came from Vietnam, and he wanted to be a doctor. And at the time, he was working some menial job, you know. But the reason why was because he had seen in Vietnam how everyone did medicine for money, you know, and just the stories that you hear, you begin to realize that people aren't who they seem. You know, they have very deep experiences that affect them in deep ways. And so you have to look at who they are, and you are your experiences, not your outward appearance.
Yeah, I think that's the important piece about this identity in the heart chakra for me around social. Because I think we can think about social in terms of how our ego has understood it, the way that we've been conditioned, but really what this identity is around, based in the heart, is our capacity to connect with others beyond just how we perceive or how we are perceived. It's really about it's to transcend that ego, Peg, just as you're describing, to transcend that and see that we're more than just, you know, the jobs we have, what we do, all that. So
Yeah.
let's move on to the fifth. We're going to move on to the fifth chakra here. And
I want to say one other thing about that. If people can't do that, then they're stuck in the chaos of what we have going on right now. Because unless you can feel the pain of others or see the pain of others, that's the fourth chakra. Unless you can do that, you're stuck down there in the ego world.
yeah.
And this past week, 2 weeks, I guess, I have been getting this message that says that the failure of the Christian church has sort of led us to where we are now in society because of the fact that they developed a sense of ethics, and they've developed the concept that you are your brother's keeper. And if you think of some of the major messages of Christianity, it's all fourth chakra stuff. And we're seeing a lot of people now that don't that. Mary is forever saying, see that car? It ran through the red light. How many of you are having experiences when you're out and cars are running through the red light?
Mm-hmm.
You are, aren't you?
Yeah.
You can hardly go out any time without having that experience. Well, in a way, that tells you that that's an ego. That person isn't in the fourth chakra. That's in an ego world. And it's permissible now to live in an ego world. It used to not be, you know, permissible, but right now it's permissible. So I don't know. That's just a little thought.
Yeah. Fourth is about love. Yeah. And so we're going to move up to the fifth chakra. And this fifth chakra, chakra 5, is about creative identity. So this is about how we express who we are, what we say, what we create, what we produce, what we generate. Initially, we identify with commitments and what we have committed to in terms of responsibility. So maybe it's, and some of this has already come up, our partner, family, maybe it's work, but we take on the appropriate identity, whatever that is, and then we express ourselves related to it. Some people can identify mostly with their mistakes, their failures, maybe where their expression has fallen short. But this creative identity extends outward to contribute and give back to the larger system. So we reach out and gain inspiration from the greatest works of civilization. And as we expand in the path, on our journey home, we find unique ways for us to contribute to that larger story, our own unique ways to contribute. So yeah, peg back to your example, like when you were in your job, you uniquely contributed in that job in that way. And yet you know that you were more than that, and you continue to express and contribute to humanity as you are wholly as Peg. So this fish chakra and this creative identity, the more we express ourselves, the more we grow in consciousness and the understanding and awareness of who we are. And we continue to move from this sense of personal, separate self into this transpersonal self, into this higher self. I think it's important to remember that the foundation of this is a healthy ego. So we're not saying to deny the ego. Often we can talk about ego as if it's negative, and it can be when it's not in balance, as we're saying, like, as Granny J is saying, like, you run through the red light, that's egoic. So it's like, yeah, when we're not acknowledging the higher, it can keep us short. But also ego is important. Having a healthy ego is foundational for them being able to move up through the chakras and express ourselves as we are, as only Amy can. It gives us a sense of social confidence and a sense of who we are, and therefore more compassion for others as well.
Okay. In the sixth chakra, and that's the one we've been spending a lot of time on, we expand into our archetypal identity.
So again, I just want to call us attention. We're in now this sixth chakra where we are. So
Yeah.
in this chakra, yeah, we're saying we expand. Okay, I just wanted to pause there.
Right. So, and this transforms the I into something that's transpersonal. Amy was just talking about that. Our personal story is now seen as an event in a larger story. We carry forward a piece of our formation, our formative past experiences that got us to this point. Maybe a non-supportive mother who herself was deprived of any kind of power, or a punishing father who himself was abused, So as we enlarge our understanding of self, we find our own life themes. We don't just have one theme, we have multiple themes, our own life themes, and they are reflected in fairy tales, in mythologies, in movies, and in news stories. This causes one to self-reflect on the larger system in which we're living and interacting. And it's sort of what we're doing in our group when we share. Someone else's experience gives insight to similar experiences that we have. Okay. We realize we're always players in a much larger arena, much larger drama that's going on. We're riding the waves of the cultural tides ebb and flow, and we're in a big ebb and flow right now, sort of an ebb. And as we age in our understanding, we consciously embrace the evolution of the archetypal symbols that speak to us. So, the role you're playing right now, Leah, the archetypal role was certainly different than it was 2 days before you were in your current place, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So as life situations change and you answer the call, you find yourself in a different archetypal kind of role there.
It's almost like, as you're saying that, I love it, because it's almost like it becomes easier and easier for us to pick up and put down the roles, the metaphoric clothes, as you said, Granny J, because we're not attached. They don't define who we are. So it's easier for us to step in, step out, pick up, drop, we can, be more available and present to what is needed in the moment.
Right, we've tried on a lot of metaphorical clothes and played around in them and sort of learned how to play that role or decide we never want to play that role, one or the other. So yeah, absolutely. So we take on crusades for some sort of preservation of maybe of an ancient forest or something. You certainly took on the immigrants, Peg, and made them your passion in your work. So we're doing more than just saving the trees, saving the immigrants. We're actually contributing to a very much larger archetypal cause. We'll become part of a bigger picture. It's sort of like, are you staying in your room or are you out there doing something? And the size of your archetypal pattern is going to sort of be based upon where you are, I guess. It's one way of looking at it.
So okay, so I'm just I think, so Granny J, we still have quite a bit. Here's a suggestion. I think we take a pause here at 6, create a little bit of opportunity for us to, what's coming up as we work with this 6, end on the 7th identity as a way to start making the segue to next season. And then I think we send out the rest of the material from tonight. How about that?
That sounds good.
Okay, because we're getting close to time and I want us to have some time to have some discussion here before we close out. So the 6th chakra, so I'm curious as we talk about this last form of identity, this archetypal identity, our ability to pick up, put down, our awareness that we're simply playing a role in this much larger stage, this much larger play. I like to think about it as like playing our own unique instrument in the greater symphony, but wanting to just, create an opportunity for us to reflect a little bit on what is speaking to us, what's resonating here as we finish out this work with the 6th chakra. Is there anything that's coming up for you? Any question? Any big inspiration or insight that you want to share here as we think about what it means to open and work with this 6th chakra and this form of identity that we're talking about?
Now, all of us have, by the age we are now and the experiences that we have learned to turn on different archetypes in different situations and have done so successfully. It's just that we haven't named it. And in our ability to turn on those archetypes when they're needed in an organization, a conversation, family situation, whatever, we have grown ourselves and we have also simultaneously helped others through a difficult situation. But you always talk about what you give, you get back. And that's one of the universal laws also. And sort of knowing about the archetypes and, when you're in one of those situations, you find yourself thinking, what can I do? And you're really thinking, what kind of role can I play here that will bring resolution to whatever it is that's going on? And then you give some thought to that, things flow in, and you begin to try things. And if they work, you stay with them. And if they don't work, you alternate them in some way.
What's coming up for me over the last maybe month? Now I am sleeping again,
I
just so
was
you know.
wondering, yeah.
I went back to taking the very same medication that I had been. So I get somewhere between 3.5 to 6 hours of sleep, which is better than nothing. But I found this whole pattern, talk about a big pattern, coming full circle and being confronted and laughing that I had recognized maybe halfway through that this is a portal, there's a threshold, I simply need to walk through it, whatever this was about, whatever this was supposed to teach me. And coming out of it, there's a sense that I still have my archetype. So let's just take one example as advocate. I've been an advocate all my life, it seems, for those who don't have a voice, the unfortunate, I really live into Catholic social teaching. Currently, I'm still engaged with racial justice equity, not an easy topic in this climate in America today when we're dealing with racism. But I've become more soft and tender, starting with myself, recognizing I was inviting a whole lot of energy when I put out a whole lot of energy that other people couldn't receive. So the manner in which I was offering energy, for some, that was too much. And so I've stepped back and I'm just allowing this sense of flow. And it's really a mystery that new opportunities keep popping up to call me to serve. It's just amazing how that's happening. And I'm recognized I don't need to try so hard to create the opportunity that I always sought, that life will bring that to me without me exhausting myself trying so hard. And the gifts have been, met a little 4-year-old who's autistic, but also blind about 2 weeks ago. It just happened in a social gathering and talked to the parents, and we talked about the school program. And I said, well, that's my background. And so here I am serving pro bono as a consultant for this young family, struggling with a very challenging situation. Or just the other day with men in my men's spirituality group, a man announces he was just diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So you sit there with these moments and you just allow it to soften. And it's been really healthy for me. I feel like in just a very different place. So this disruption of insomnia really was a gift.
I think that's a perfect statement, because anytime something happens that immobilizes you in some way or other, is always a doorway that you have closed and haven't opened, but it has to be open for you to walk through to the next thing. And those are all gifts. In fact, anything that's detrimental is a gift. And that's how I look at my eyes. It's a gift, because what am I not willing to see? I've always thought I've been an observer, and I've seen a lot. But what is it that I've deliberately pushed back and not seen? It's something, it'll flow in. I just have to be patient for it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the beautiful lesson, is patience. Just keep waiting for it to unfold instead of trying to do something just for the sake of doing something.
Yeah, there's a timing, always a timing. Yeah.
I'm complete.
Yeah.
Can I share what's happening, Amy and Jimmy, with me this last month?
Please.
I've been having work. We've been up at the cottage, and I've been having these visions of memories that my dad here up here, of him chopping down the Christmas tree, or my mom floating on her back in the middle of the lake, or my brother rebuilding it's my siblings, memories of my siblings coming forward.
Hmm.
And I thought, what is all this? What is this? It's kind of what you said, Daniel. What is this all about? I mean, what's this? Is my intuition being active here, or what am I supposed to be doing? And what I realized, what I am, if I am, because of we're moving to a new generation of cottage ownership. And what I've realized is that I am no longer, I am the second generation, and the next generation of ownership are the third generations. And what does that make me? What is my dad supposed to, am I supposed to be doing something? Is my dad telling me something to do? And when I realized what he's telling me to do, my dad supported financially this cottage for years and years and years. I believe he was telling me, it's your turn now. It's your turn to step up. So using my intuition, I'm beginning to learn that and stepping up. So
Yeah, I think the fact that her dad, there's a picture of her dad on her 80th birthday up here, and she turns 80 in January. So I think that 80th connection began to really turn on this summer.
Hmm.
it's a new archetype, like whether you want to call it a matrix, but generational changes that happen in our lives create different archetypes for us. And do we step into them or not?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to be actually doing my Elder Rites of Passage in September. And it's a 5-day event, and really this whole channeling into that role as an archetype as elder, and the responsibility that goes with that. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think
I love it.
intuition's been alive. Don't you think? Intuition's been alive in this group this month?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I wanted to pick up and just this thread that I'm hearing, which is so beautiful, because as we close here tonight, one of the things if you remember, and part of what Granny J and I will send out that we didn't get to tonight, but I think it's perfect, was that we were going to do a little reflection on the demons from each chakra. And the demon for this sixth chakra is illusion. And I love it because what I'm hearing, Daniel, and what you're sharing, and Mary, what you're sharing, is a lot of the ways that we can get in the way of this clear vision of the intuition is by thinking. Like, it's this, what do I think? What do I, what is it? Trying to figure it out. But so much of this comes through in really mysterious ways. It does call for patience. And it does call for stillness and openness, and it will be revealed. Will we know? It will be revealed. But yeah, I think that tonight's gathering has been such a beautiful experience of the sixth chakra together. And so I want to say thank you, and just invite us here at the very end of the call we're going to do a little check out. I'll just invite everybody to just maybe say a couple of words about what gifts you've received tonight, wanting to honor our time together. I will send out in the harvest the recording as well as the rest of the session that Granny J and I had planned out.
Yeah.
And do you want to say something else, Granny J, before we check out?
Well, when you started thinking, you were into the brain. And most of what we were hearing tonight was coming from the mind. And people
Exactly. And I was simply doing that because that's the demon, is the thinking. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't forget to continue reading the book Power of Now. The seventh chakra is living in the now, living in present time, being fully present. And so Toll's book is remarkable.
Mhm.
And it's a different way it's not the normal chakra language. So it's good to have different languages talking about the same topic that you want to talk about, the seventh chakra. So
Beautiful.
I just say, as you're all speaking, I am the try too hard champion. I'm right up with the best of them. And I would like at some point, well, to circle back, not tonight, but as in the sixth chakra, how we can more easily transfer identity or archetypes. The whole idea of getting stuck interests me, and this is coming up as I'm listening to people. And even being stuck in a chakra, like you'll say our US is stuck in the first chakra. Maybe sometime we could talk more about what does that mean and look like, and as we aspire to use our intuition and be able to shift our role and adapt to the greater society. As a try too hard person, thank you, Daniel, for reminding us about the beauty of not trying too hard. It'd be I'd like to ponder more about the stuckness of things.
Okay, we'll talk about it, Amy. Thanks for sharing, Tammy.
Thank you.
I want to say I'm very grateful for both of you in the way that you approached tonight and building us from going back to the first chakra in terms of identity and building ourselves. That was very, very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just grateful. Go ahead, Daniel.
I'm grateful for the vulnerability expressed this evening about your current present moment. And Leah, thank you. Thank you. Sending energy your way. Child care, sibling care. Woo. We honor you.
Thank you. My notes say mind, not blind.
Very good. Well,
Yeah, this has been
I-
grounding for me. Thank you.
yeah, I just want to say that I've been on this journey since the mid 60s, and but I never had a conversation group like you guys, which gives me feedback. It gives a lot of gives me something to keep my mind busy on, and my mind's busy on it anyway. So this is really nice, and I'm very, very grateful to each of you for your presence here every week. And Amy, I'm very, very grateful to you putting up with me.
Remember, it's all love.
Yeah, it's all up.
Yeah, well, it's an honor putting up with you, Granny J. I'll put up with you any day. Thank you for putting up with me. And you know what? I think I'm really moved tonight as we gather by the power of who we are when we remember, and it's Daniel, your example of the child that you met a couple of weeks ago, and like my experience in New Hampshire, as I described these, what seemed to be these little things, just these little acts, they're so huge. The power of that presence, because it just ripples out in ways that it's really beyond our imagination. And I'm so moved by that. And I know that what we're doing here, committing to our own journey home and being together in this way, I'm just like imagining that just rippling out in these waves that, it's transformative. I mean, it really is. I'm really feeling that. Yeah. Thank you all so much for being here. Yeah.
Embracing.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Marcia, you want to say something before we end? You and Peg said she's grateful. Marcia, anything? You're muted though.
There we go. Muted but grateful.
It was barely a year ago we were dancing our
Oh, I know.
hearts out, right?
Oh
Granny,
yeah,
yeah.
Celebrating some real stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there are still people talking about your dancing, because when I talk with people up here who were at the party, they remember the dancers. And that's true of anyone else I've talked to that was at that party.
Lasting imprint. All right, everybody, take good care of your hearts and your
Have a
beautiful
great-
souls, and we'll see you in a month. Take
Good
good care.
night. Much love.
Much love.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Yeah. There we go.